Tell Tehani. Today we have with us Anuk Dharmasena, a student at the Faculty of Law at the University of Colombo, and he went to St. Thomas's Prep, and he is also an extremely avid theatre enthusiast as well as a debater. Hi Anuk.
Hi Tehani, thanks for having me.
No problem. So to begin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I think you covered a lot of the stuff that I generally do. So I am a student at the Law Faculty of Colombo. I'm a first year, and I'm involved in a lot of stuff there as well. In addition to my obvious academic course, I study do CIMA as well on the side. I also I'm involved in mooting, debating, and theatre outside faculty as well.
Right. So tell us a little bit about why you picked law.
Well, I was never set on law as a kid.
Right.
I don't think I ever thought to myself, growing up, I want to be a lawyer.
Right.
But I think it's just something you sort of grow into the more you study and the more you sort of figure out what your interests are. So once I came to around grade 8 at St. Thomas's Prep, I started to develop a liking towards history.
Okay.
And then history turned into reading, and that turned into an interest in general about sort of learning how, history generally develops into the law as well somehow, right?
Yes, correct.
So by the time I came to St. Thomas's College, I was set in the sense that I wanted to go to the law faculty of the University of Colombo,
Right.
generally because of the alumni that I know who have gone there, and I
Okay.
know that it's quite prestigious. So that's generally how it sort of came about.
Okay, awesome. What is it like doing both, doing CIMA on the side and studying?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's the easiest thing to do. There are some of my other batchmates at faculty as well who also follow the same thing. I know some of my cousins who are doing engineering degrees and also doing CIMA.
Okay.
But the benefit of doing CIMA is that it's a professional qualification, so you can finish it at whatever time you want, whenever you're comfortable with it, whenever time permits. So obviously I'm doing a full-time degree at the faculty, so whenever I do find the time, and now obviously in a period like this where there's so much uncertainty, where there's COVID, when on-site activities are limited, that permits me to sort of focus a bit more on CIMA as well.
Right, that's awesome. So juggling both is not too hard.
So it's been done before, so I know that there is
can do it.
a track record of getting it done.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So before coming to the law faculty and stuff, tell me a little bit about your school career and what were you involved in? What was your entire, maybe your senior year or the last few
Okay,
years of
so
school?
I did O-levels at St. Thomas's Prep, and I served as the head prefect there in 2015. I was involved in swimming, athletics, and obviously theatre while I was there. And thereafter I went to St. Thomas's College, and I served as the president of the Drama Society there. I did debating. I also served as a college prefect between 2017 and 2019.
Right.
So yeah, those are just some of the general activities I got involved in.
Okay, so debating has always been a part of your life from smaller days, or was that something that you...
Not necessarily. So we didn't have debating at St. Thomas's Prep.
Okay.
We did a couple of workshops where guys, the members of the society from college came and helped us out a bit and
Right.
sort of geared us towards it, because they obviously wanted a proper influx coming in when we went to college.
Okay.
So they kind of got us interested in the whole thing when we were in our senior year at St. Thomas's Prep.
Yeah.
And so I started as soon as I joined college in 2016. And it just really kicked on from there. I really like the debating fraternity. They have it's a really nice group, and it's really a really close-knit group, I'd say. And so I've been involved with so many tournaments. I've organized a couple at college as well. So, and even at faculty now, I'm organizing next year's Sri Lanka Schools Debating Championship as well.
Awesome, congratulations.
Yeah.
Tell me, what aspect of debating is it that draws you to it, or is it about the fact that you get to learn about so much, or that you get to research on so many new things? If you're
I
not
think it's a little bit
familiar?
about everything, as you
Okay.
said. So obviously, it's a discipline where you really need to think on your feet. You need to think fast.
Exactly.
And obviously, like you said, you research into so many different aspects. You become I think you become well versed as a human being in so many different areas.
Yeah.
And I think it's better for you. I think ultimately I realized that when the people I associated with in the debating fraternity, some incredible people, and I've learned so much from them as well. So I think that's what really got me into it. Like obviously, like I didn't have the time to like sort of really like do everything in terms of my debating career. I really wanted to sort of pursue it a lot deeper, and I haven't gotten involved in actual tournaments since I'd say 2018.
Okay.
But like my interest in it really spurred on from the fact that I met all these great people, and the fact that they had succeeded by doing debating.
Yeah, and I think also like sometimes you're not always debating on like whether like for example something that you agree with, right? Because
yeah,
it might be on the other side of the conversation.
There are very contentious issues that we often like sort of debate on, and obviously it's not just about our personal opinion as well. We are forced into a particular side. You're either the proposition or the opposition. So you have to, even if you're not in agreement with it, you have to think of facts for the other side. And I think that makes you sort of understand where the other side is always coming from. I mean, in our society, we find so much polarity nowadays because it's always like an us versus them mentality. I mean, you look at the US, for example. You have the Republicans and the Democrats, and they're always you can never find all the like these non-partisan sort of like statutes coming through. And the reason for that is it's always, if you don't agree with me, you're a bigot, or you don't like sort of, exactly, or you're not well versed in it. You don't always try to empathize and put yourself on the other side. So I think debating has really taught me how to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So now I know that your family consists of very talented people. So tell me how, what it's like being in the theatre industry, or like doing things theatre related, and how you got into it, whether you had any push from your family background, or was it something you just found on your own, or was it both?
Well, I wouldn't say my introduction to theatre was the most glamorous. Like, I started off like when I was around 5. Like, I know it's pretty young, but I started off like doing the whole Trinity College exams with Auntie Saroja. Yeah. So it started off like that, fairly formal. And initially, when I got going, I just saw it mostly as a burden. I didn't really want to do it. It was more like every September I had to do this exam, and I had to just get it over with. Sort of humiliate myself in front of this examiner, and then I'm done with it. I think
so you weren't exactly like in love with the idea of theatre in the beginning.
Honestly, I wasn't, and in that sense, like even though like in my family I have all these individuals who have succeeded in the theatre art form. I didn't really get that push. It was mostly just my mom saying you have to do these exams. I think that really changed once I got involved with school drama. So. When I came to grade 8, we had these really small-scale concerts at school, like really small scale. It was just for the parents, it was a senior concert, and we did this English drama, which was just like an excerpt of a play for around 20 minutes. But getting to work with my seniors, getting to work with my batchmates who were also interested in drama, I think that really brought in an element of fun into it, which I hadn't really experienced before. And obviously, like then I was able to introduce all my rudimentary learning, which I'd gotten from Auntie Saroja and doing these exams, into what I was doing at school. And once that started to happen, and once I started to realize, okay, I'm actually pretty good at this, that's when I started to like really develop an interest in it, and I wanted to pursue it a lot deeper. So I started off like that, and I did a few dramas like that, and then when I was in grade 11 at prep, we took part in Shakes for the first time.
What was that experience like?
It was a little overwhelming, to be honest, because like prep hadn't taken part in Shakes for like over 10 or 12 years, I think. So neither the director nor the students really knew what we were going in for. We didn't really realize how competitive it was, the atmosphere.
Competitive it became after so long.
Exactly. So when we went there, we just wanted to have fun. We just wanted to like see what we could do. And we fared pretty well. Like we won the Best Novice School, I think, and one of our actors got a nomination for Best Actor as well. So it was a really good experience, and that sort of propelled me into doing drama at college as well. And obviously at college, because we have a lot more resources and we have a larger student body, the productions are on a much larger scale. So I took part in Shakes at college as well. I also did a production of Lord of the Flies there, which was a lot of fun. And and then obviously I became the president of the Drama Society as well. I've also done a couple of outside productions with my uncle, Anuk Dharmasena. So I've done a couple of comedies with him, which was great fun, like learning from him and learning from, the people he works with.
Yes.
I obviously like performing at the Went is one of the greatest things that, you can do in this country. I think, especially if you're into the theatre art form, I think it's one of your finest moments. So I think to have been able to perform at the Went, 4 or 5 times has been really nice.
Yeah. If you could tell me about one particular play or one particular theatre performance that you've done that you really enjoyed, like your most favorite one, what would it be and why?
Well, I'd probably have to pick the last one, and it may be Lord of the Flies when I took part back in 2018 with the college cast.
Yeah.
And really because of the people I was working with, like these were like some of my closest friends that I've made at school. And working with them extensively for like almost, 3 months straight. Yeah, exactly, going late into the night. And it's not just not the acting that we do at college, like the students are also supposed to do the production work as well.
Right.
So, obviously we spent a lot of late nights, working on that, and that was really fun.
The entire concept is basically done by...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For better or for worse, I'm not going to comment on it, too much. But
no problem.
Yeah, it's it gets a little hectic.
The experience in itself is
for sure.
rewarding.
Learning to balance that with everything else you're doing, your studies and all the other extracurriculars you're doing, has been really rewarding, I'd say. So also like the characters that I was working with, that play was quite unique in that sense, and there's a lot of growth in like sort of redundant growth, but I'd say like in terms of like the change in the character, you have to analyze it and sort of consider all those. Yeah, it was interesting for sure.
That's great. So you were talking about balancing your academics and all these other things. What advice do you have to kids who are also doing this kind of thing? And nowadays so many do that, where they do like multiple other things while also trying so hard to keep their grades up. What did you do? What are some tips that you have?
So I think, like what everyone else says, it's about efficient time management. I think it's about knowing what to prioritize when.
Yeah.
One of my former head prefects, he told me, like, I asked him, like, what's the point in doing all these different things? Because if you really think about it, once you leave school, some of your achievements, it only matters while you're in school, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to start from scratch once you leave. And I asked him, like, what's the point? And he says that, like, when you're like 30, 35, it's not like you stop doing all these things, you're balancing your work with your family life, you have to you have to pay attention to your kids, you have to pay attention to your wife, you have to do all these different things.
Yeah.
And the training you get is really from like what you do at school and balancing all these different things, knowing how to prioritize things at once, knowing when to sort of give more attention to something else.
Yeah.
So I think like learning that from him and then sort of trying to implement that in my life has been really the key to sort of doing all that.
And balancing.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you need to sort of, it's always good to attempt these things, and like, I mean, even if you're going to fail and even if you're going to fall short of what you really want to do, at least you have no regrets once you're done with it, right? So you just try everything while you can, and hopefully you see success as well.
Right, thank you. So I know clearly you're someone who really appreciates the art and is really into theatre, but what would you like to say, because I know nowadays like some people think that the arts is not an area that is of concern, or like it's not an important enough area to give attention to. What would you say about, what are your views on that? Like, why do you think art is important, or theatre and that entire area?
Well, I'd say that in general, like this is not just restricted to art as well, but when you shouldn't restrict yourself to anything that you're doing. You have to sort of draw like knowledge and inspiration from so many different sources, and you should never compartmentalize what you're doing. So like even when I'm doing my law degree, I try to read as much as I can on, like I said, on history. I try to draw little things, draw analogies from whatever plays that I do. Like for example, my constitutional law lecturer, she's an avid fan of she's an avid fan of literature, and she's also a big fan of music. So whenever she's teaching a particular piece on constitutional law, she sometimes draws an analogy from Macbeth, which is like very relevant.
Yes.
So you should never restrict yourself and compartmentalize. And I think that's the benefit of learning and drawing inspiration from all these different things, is that you never sort of come up short. I think you sort of always have this option of sort of relying on all these different things to
Correct.
sort of enhance whatever you're doing.
So it's important to look at the full picture
Exactly,
instead of just sticking to one aspect or something like that. Yeah. So now I'd like to ask you, so you go to the Faculty of Law at the University of Colombo. What made you stay in Sri Lanka? Why didn't you choose to go abroad? What was the push to stay here?
To be completely honest with you, I wasn't like set on, like I didn't have a set plan that I was going to go to the Faculty of Law, I was going to study in Sri Lanka. I always wanted to keep my options open, but I think that changed when I came to college, because obviously like I started reading up on like some of the like, you know, head prefects and what they'd done in college and where they'd gone and how they had succeeded. And I knew that a lot of them had actually gone to the Faculty of Law and like succeeded there. And that's not to say that, you know, I wanted to sort of copy what they were doing and sort of, you know, like follow the exact same route. But I knew that, you know, the Faculty of Law was definitely an option for me because of, you know, like there's this whole stigma that, you know, like local learning isn't as good and local education facilities aren't as great.
Yeah.
But I knew that these people had succeeded in, like, you know, in whatever, you know, avenue they were sort of looking at, by, you know, going to local universities. And that prompted me to sort of study a bit about the faculty, study a bit about, you know, like education, like the opportunities we have here. And
they're very vast.
Yeah, exactly. We have great faculty. We have, like, you know, great faculties within the University of Colombo. It's not just law. You know, the arts faculty is really good, and so is the management faculty. And once I started to learn about it, and I actually made a visit back in 2016 because like I said, I'm convening LawFax next year, and it's the faculty that organizes the debating championship. So I actually made a visit then, and I was really impressed by, you know, what they have, and I can't say I've been let down after, you know, coming to university this year. I think, you know, that stigma or those stereotypes that exist, they're largely false. You know, like people sort of base it on the fact that it's that, you know, like because you go through the local educational system and because you're associating with all these people coming from different areas of the country, and because they that the lecturers aren't as good, that, you know, like the facilitators aren't that great, the administration isn't that great. But I mean, that's not to say that they don't have their, like, you know, that they don't have their flaws, like I said. But it's also the fact that well, I also wanted to mention the fact that, like, my great-grandfather, you know, C.W.W. Karnangara, was the father of free education. So I don't think it would have sat well with my mom if I decided to go abroad. She was always kind of pushing it from the side, but I like to think that I made that choice on my own. And I think, you know, it has been rewarding, and especially when I look at the opportunities that are there before me now, that I'm actually at the faculty and all the extracurriculars I can pursue. You know, I've not been disappointed at all.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Anuk, for being with us here today.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you join us on our next episode of Tehani, where we will be talking to more inspiring young individuals. Have a great week, guys.